Good evening. Welcome to the Planning Board meeting, Acton Planning Board meeting of September 5th, 2019. Before we actually start the meeting, I would like to ask everybody.
This really isn't close enough. Nobody can hear you.
If you can't hear me, raise your hand. If you can hear me, raise your hand. Nobody raised their hand. I knew I was good. I'm just going to do that. Before we start everything, I would like to ask everybody just to remember for a moment the passing of Marie Cashin. Her husband, Tom, has been a member of this board for 25 years, I believe. So if we could just a moment to remember Marie, and condolences to Emil and Tom, her family. Thank you. And I thank you for our change of venue. Anybody who has not signed in, would you please sign in? There will be a sign-in sheet at the end of that table near Mr. Long at some time. Tonight we have, all members are here. We will not be needing to assign a delegate. We will start with the approval of the minutes of the August 15th meeting. Sorry? Second, okay. The minutes were moved by Yoli Gallagher, seconded by Leslie Berlin. All in favor? Any discussion? Minutes will be filed as read. We're on to old business. Mr. Martell, Youngs Ridge Road, map 217, lot 029, proposed 22-lot subdivision. As we know, there's a little bit of interest in this, and I would just like to make a couple of things clear, and that being, I received a letter. I was given a copy of a letter that was addressed to me by Ms. Amy Chow of Drummond and Woodsum Attorneys at Law. I received a copy of this September 3rd. Ms. Chow states the law offices for whom she works represent Great East Lake Improvement Association and a number of individuals owning property on or in the vicinity of Great East Lake in Acton, Maine. They represent in regards to Mr. Martell's proposed cluster subdivision on Young Ridge Road. First and foremost, Ms. Chow points out a procedural error made by this board, and she is correct. We will correct this error by sending out notification to abutters with a date and time of a public hearing to inform them of the application for the subdivision that we have received. Notifications to the abutters will be in the mail by Tuesday evening. That does not stop the public hearing process. A second notification will be mailed to abutters after we receive a preliminary plan. At that time, a second notice will go out for another public hearing. I encourage you to attend those public hearings, because remember, a public hearing is where your voice is heard. This is a regular meeting of the planning board, not a public hearing. Many of you have contacted me directly, and know I've encouraged you to come to planning board meetings and observe for yourself how the process of granting permits works. Actually, in this case, you will see how, being human, when we do make a mistake, we do our utmost to correct that mistake. Some of you have been to our meetings before, some of you haven't, but please go to the public hearings. You will know when they are. As a policy, we do not have public comment in our regular scheduled meetings. We have in the past allowed, at our discretion, public comments that are pertinent to the issues being discussed, and we will indeed entertain some comments this evening, as long as they pertain to the business at hand. We cannot answer any questions on anything that is not before us. That being said, there are plenty of issues that will be coming up that we'll be able to address at the next public hearing. We cannot address, well, if final plans say this or that, we don't have them, we don't know, those have to wait. If the comments get way out of field, I will simply stop the proceedings and we will move on to our next agenda. If everybody will just keep that in mind, we shall go on. First, before we start anything, I would like to, just to get the evening going in a cooperative manner, I understand there's a petition, and I would ask that that be brought forward now. This is, oops, I don't, where is, yes.
The petition started this past weekend and sent around by several different people on the lake.
And may I ask your name?
Jesse Svatek, Jesse Springer Svatek.
Thank you.
90 Langley Shores.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chairman, just a point of order. Can the person who's speaking be heard? I know you can be heard, but you're recording this, and I just want to make sure that everyone's comments are also audible. Create a record.
Good point.
We can move this microphone
We
here.
can move this one over, I think.
If I say something, I'm sure we can hear me.
So if you wouldn't mind, just your name again.
Sure thing. My name is Jessica Springer Svatek, 490 Langley Shores, and we started a petition last week that's presented to you.
Thank you. Okay. So, going on.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
I'm just wondering if you could distill, if you have any idea what the nature of the petition is?
I have not seen this before. I will take a minute to read this, and then I do intend to go on with the schedule. A developer is seeking approval to build a 22-lot cluster subdivision on the shores of Great East Lake at the Old Boys Camp, 760 Youngs Ridge Road. The cluster subdivision will include lake access for 22 homes on a shared waterfront space of 370 feet. Current zoning laws indicate that this frontage should accommodate only 5 homes. He is trying to bypass shorefront requirement by utilizing a cluster subdivision, something that has not been done in Acton. It was not the intent of the cluster development ordinance. This would be precedent-setting that would have future impact on development of Great East and every lake in Acton, Maine. We can and must deliver an overwhelming wave of opposition to this plan. We need to tell Acton Town Planning Board that we want to stand up for the protection of our lakes and the community of Acton. We call on you to stand against the proposed cluster subdivision at 760 Youngs Ridge Road, which would threaten the health of Great East Lake, adversely impact the life of wildlife habitat. We stand with concerned citizens in opposition of this cluster division, and it is signed by, let's just say, many people at this point.
At this point, 75.
At this point, I've been told 75 people. thank you for this. We will have this, the members of the planning board will see it and read it and go from there. So, on to our agenda. Brad Jones from
Jones and Beach.
Jones and Beach, or Mr. Martell. When we saw you last, we had asked you for some more information. I assume you have that?
Yes, I'm Brad Jones, Jones and Beach Engineers, and representing Arnie Martell on the project. Just give you a little history. Our company's done a complete survey of the property and been working on the project for, I believe, 3 years. And we've gone through, and the original parcel was 100 acres, actually two separate parcels. And so we've been involved with all the engineering at this point and developed the subdivision plans that you see in front of you today. The subdivision is a cluster subdivision, which is something that's in the regulations and encouraged to go with a cluster instead of a conventional subdivision, which what it does, it utilizes less space and leaves some open space on the project and reduces the size of the lots and the frontage of the lots, and it makes more of a compact subdivision, which is better for the environment. So that's the plans that we have in front of everyone today. There was a couple of items that we've added. One of them was a complete drainage report, and that was submitted, and what it does is analyze the property and the detention ponds and all the drainage piping and everything involved to get the drainage to function properly and treat the storm water and all that's shown in the plans. The plans themselves haven't changed from last meeting as far as the lot configuration, the storm drainage, the ponds, everything stayed the same, but we have added some additional notes. One of the notes had to do with the stormwater management. So after this project is built out, we will develop actually just prior to completion of the approval process, we will come up with a stormwater management plan. And this plan will be used to go back and monitor all the ponds and drainage in the future and have different requirements for all the drainage features that we've designed. So that note's been added to the plan, that stormwater plan will be submitted, once the plans are complete. The other item that we added was wetland note, which is who delineated the wetlands. So we've added that to the plans. And we've also provided the board with a construction cost estimate to complete the road and the drainage and the ponds and all everything it needs, the roadway construction. So that's all been submitted to the board at this point, and I think we've addressed the comments from the last meeting. Yep.
Okay. Does anyone on the board at this point have any questions?
Did we ever get an answer from Southern Maine Planning on the items that were in question?
We did get a second response, and they have gone through and they kind of responded to my response letter. So at this point, it looks like we've...
Do we have that in our packet?
Yeah.
Yes.
We do, okay.
Yeah, we have that.
Yeah, that was sent out on August 28th. Yeah, was dated.
The one thing you should, just a housekeeping note here, anything you get from Southern Maine Planning, there seems to be a glitch in their emails, and if we ask for a copy of something they sent to us a week ago, say on September 28th. They will send it to us, and it will be dated August 28th. It'll be dated September 5th. If we ask them for the same thing tomorrow, it will say September 7th. We are or have sent them an email saying, please, when we ask for a copy of an original document, send us a dated original document. I think this is a problem that happens in other places as well. So you can have an original document with 4 different dates on it. And we want to make sure that doesn't happen anymore. So we do have that. Down here, any further questions?
Oh, I think we still have some of the same issues that we had at the last meeting, right?
Which,
Address the actual structure of the lots in terms of the shoreline zone. The new plan doesn't reflect any changes in the actual dimensions of the lot in regards to the shoreline zone. Like I pointed out at the last meeting, they're going in their zoning ordinance, page 14 in the land use chart. Under residential structures and uses, planned unit development or cluster development is not permitted in the shoreline zone. 3 of your lots are in the shoreline zone, and we ask that you at least pull those back from the shoreline zone and make that part of the open space.
well, we have been in touch with the planning board lawyer, and this cluster subdivision does not fall under planned unit development. It does not meet the definitions. We have that from 2 attorneys now.
Well, I would strongly disagree. I mean, I've been on the planning board for 8 years, and the land use chart doesn't need a legal interpretation of planned unit development or cluster development. This is a planned unit development. The plans of the roads, the lots, the septics, layouts are all on the plans. It's a planned unit development, and it's also a cluster subdivision. It's not just a regular subdivision where you're dividing land. This thing has lots laid out. So I don't need a legal opinion to tell me what the land use chart is saying in the zoning ordinance,
Unfortunately,
or 2 of them, for that matter.
unfortunately, as a board, we do need to follow the legal definitions, and we do need to follow what's right, not just our own opinions.
Joyce, did the lawyer say why they didn't think?
The question is, did the lawyer say why there was not a PUD? It does not fit the definition. They are not townhouses, there's not a retail area going in, there's not a recreational area going in. There are 4 or 5 different things that would need to become a PUD. A PUD...
Yes, Joyce, I'd like to read the definition in the zoning ordinance of a planned unit development.
When I'm through, I would like you to do that.
Excellent, thank you.
In the case of real estate, several more things are necessary than simple homes to become a PUD. And it's simply, according to our attorney and another attorney, and Southern Maine, I believe, and Southern Maine Planning, it is not and does not fit the requirements of being a planned unit development.
We don't have our attorney's opinion in writing, so I think that should be our next step, is we'll get it.
We'll get it in writing.
In writing for, I mean, definitely the planned unit development, it's not gonna meet that definition. It is a cluster subdivision, there are waterfront lots that meet the standard size in the cluster. When we're looking at it, common sense reasons, we're gaining 40 acres of open space and reducing a couple of thousand feet of road frontage, which the developer can change his plans if he needs to and go conventional subdivision. If that's what has to happen, if that's what they choose.
And I will tell you, if that's what he chooses, and he does plan and want to go straight subdivision, you will see more houses. You will see many more houses. And that isn't something that
I'll read that
we're saying
definition now, if you'd like,
he can
Joyce.
do. That is what is in the subdivision regulation and zoning ordinance. And Gavin, I said you could read that definition, and I meant it, so would you like to read that?
Oh, certainly. It's page 30 in the zoning ordinance, if anybody wants to get it in front of them. I know I read it to the board before. Planned unit development. Land under unified management, planned and developed as a whole according to comprehensive and detailed plans including street, utilities, lots or building sites, site plans, and design principles for all buildings intended to be located, constructed, used, and related to each other, and for other uses and improvements on the land. Development may be a single operation or a programmed series of operations, including all lands and buildings, with provision for operation and maintenance of such areas and improvements and facilities necessary for common use by the occupants of the development. So that is what the zoning ordinance has for planned unit development, and I personally think this is a planned unit development and a cluster subdivision, and I once again ask the applicant to please pull the 3 lots back out of the shoreline zone, and then we won't be fetching up on this simple issue.
Are you saying every subdivision's a planned unit development?
No, I didn't say that.
Well, what would make this one a planned unit development versus a subdivision?
Well, a subdivision could be a simple division of land. This is, we have these plans already in place, the streets, utilities, lots, building sites, site plans, and design principles like the stormwater management system for all of the lots. It's all together. It's a planned unit I mean, that's my understanding of the zoning ordinance. But no, not all subdivisions would fall under a planned unit development.
Well, a division of land's not a subdivision. That's just a division of land, usually.
Well, it depends on the time frame, right? So if you're breaking off 2 lots within a 5-year time period, it becomes a subdivision, whether or not you're putting a house. That's a simpler kind of thing.
Division of land.
Yeah.
Joyce, I'd like to,
Yes.
first off, the Great East Lake Association, they hired an attorney.
Yeah,
Okay, let me finish.
okay.
And, which is their right to do. And that's fine. And what they're doing is they're taking their advice of their attorney that they hired, which, that's why you do it. As a planning board, we take advice from our attorneys, and we try to follow their advice, because that's why they're attorneys, and we're just common people trying to help out the community and make as little mistakes as we can. So, I believe that we need to take our attorney's advice, regardless of what my interpretation is of any of this, because that's what we paid them to do. In a comprehensive plan that the town adopted, it says in there very clearly that the planning board should be encouraging cluster development because it uses less land area for the development and it creates more open space. And so out of this developed area, the way the cluster division works is we're gonna have 37, 38 acres of protected property that nothing's gonna be done with. And to keep in the programs that ordinances and plans that we've adopted, this is why the planning board is trying to work with somebody that wants to preserve more land and preserve the water quality. We're only human and we do make mistakes. And I'm glad everybody's here tonight, but I did not know Arnie from anybody before he came to the planning board. And my take is going to the site visits and stuff, and what he's shown me he's done, he's bent over backwards to work with anything that the planning board asks. And I don't see how, if everything he is doing is within our ordinances and our comprehensive plan, the only thing we can do is make sure he follows all those ordinances and the state laws. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think the question we want to pose to our attorney is, can you have conventional lots in a cluster subdivision? And would that consist in the shoreland zone, and would that consist to be a cluster? Just because it's part of it, so.
And we have a specific land use attorney that we...
Correct.
We do.
Yep.
We do. And we can be in touch with him, and we certainly can have something in writing by our next meeting. Okay. Is there anything else from the board? Yes. May I?
May I?
Yes. Leah, your name, please.
Yes, thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Leah Rachin, and I am an attorney from Bergen and Parkinson, and I'm here on behalf of Mr. Martell. I do not want to belabor issues that you've made clear that you don't want to discuss. I will simply say this, that you have 2 letters from 2 different attorneys on the same issues, obviously having 2 different opinions on those things. One of your board members has said that you trust your own attorney's advice, and I guess my request to this board is simply this, is that you have both sides' perspectives, that you could ask the town attorney not simply that one question, but I think there are 3 questions, and I know I've outlined them in my letter. Attorney Chow, I think, also has those questions, and it seems to me in the Venn diagram of questions, there are maybe 3 or 4 that instead of having piecemeal opinions from your own attorney, perhaps it would be beneficial to all parties on both sides, as well as this board, to have your town attorney opine on those 3 or 4 issues.
You are correct. And I don't know if Ms. Chu cares to say anything about that?
Chow.
Chow? Sorry.
It's okay. Don't mind, I'm going to go to the podium, is that all right?
Yes? Oh, fine, fine, thank you.
Lay out. Okay. Good evening. My name is Amy Chow. I'm from the law firm of Drummond Woodsum, and I'm here tonight to represent the Great East Lake Improvement Association, GELIA, as well as a number of individuals, including direct abutters to this project. Those abutters include, without limitation, Patrick and Charmaine Gahan, who is a direct abutter to this project. He could not be here tonight. He sends his regrets, but he very much would like to participate in these proceedings. And I really do appreciate, thank you, Madam Chairwoman, for allowing some brief comments. I realize this is not a public hearing, and that may come later.
It will come later.
So I do appreciate the opportunity to present in summary form 3 or 4 main points that I would like to focus on tonight. First, with respect to who I represent, and I'm glad I've been given the opportunity to address the planning board, I did try to reach out to your town attorney. I believe that's Joe Lankowski, is that correct?
That's correct.
And I was notified that he was not authorized to speak to me. So I echo Leah's recommendation that if there's any opinion from an attorney besides the developer's attorney on the issues that are in front of the board, both substantively and procedurally, that we hear them from the town attorney in writing. I have read Leah's letter that I received this afternoon. I have not had a chance to respond to it, and I would like to have a chance to respond to it, as well as to communicate with the town attorney. But I believe the planning board is headed in the right direction by addressing these issues as threshold issues first. And the reason why I think that's terribly important here is that you do not want to spend precious town resources reviewing a subdivision project, a proposal here, that if it violates the zoning ordinance should not be before you for subdivision review. You have gone through a number of meetings
I counted 5, 6, or 7 of them. It's not clear to me whether or not you have accepted this application as complete as a preliminary plan or not. I heard something different tonight than I thought was the case, and I think there have been a number of procedural issues. Again, I'm glad that you are correcting the ones that you see and plan to open this up, but I do want to speak for my clients in expressing some concern and frustration at how this process has not been completely transparent, and I'll just use 2 examples. One is there have been a number of members from Gilia who have attempted to come into the town office and access documents regarding the proposal, including opinion letters, letters from Southern Maine Regional Planning, plans of any nature, and on more than one occasion they have been denied access to that. And I would hope that as this process moves forward, that will end, because all of those, even preliminary plans, of course, are open to the public and should be open and reviewable by any member of the public who is concerned about this development. Secondly, there was a site visit, I believe on August 1st, and I did see the notice that it was noticed up publicly. However, I have it on good information that at least one, if not more than one person, was either denied access to the site visit or strongly discouraged to attend the site visit. Obviously, that's a violation of your subdivision regulations. If people want to understand what's going to be happening on this land, they ought to be given the open opportunity to participate in that site visit, and I hope that they will be allowed to do so. But turning to the issue that I want to focus on tonight, which is hopefully will lead me to a recommendation for the board as a matter of process. We believe that this proposal as constructed, it clearly violates your zoning ordinance. And before the planning board should spend any time dealing with the substance of this proposal, the stormwater drainage plans, the wetland delineations, the substance of what is being proposed here, there is a threshold zoning issue that needs to be determined. And you, in my opinion, should not be spending your time going through that iterative process without reaching this decision first about whether this is permitted under your zoning ordinance. And it is not permitted under your zoning ordinance. And I plan to do a more in-depth response to Leah's letter, and hopefully there will be an ability to talk about these legal issues. I'm confident. Leah's a great attorney. We have a great rapport, and I'm sure we will be able to at least get all of the legal issues out on the table, and I concur in her recommendation that we do that and have the town attorney weigh in on these issues. We obviously need to do that to establish a record. If Gilia is a party that is opposing this development, we know that we need to participate in these proceedings from the beginning, and whatever the planning board's decision is, if my clients do not agree with it, they know they have their rights to appeal, and so it's important that we present, at least in summary form, what the arguments are. Tonight, without taking up too much time, because I know there are plenty of people who have things they would like to say, I'd like to focus on one legal issue. There are many, but this is the primary one. And that is the fact that, as Mr. Maloney has pointed out, cluster subdivisions, cluster developments are not allowed in your shoreland district, and I know you know that. There is also another provision in your ordinance. And I've had some experience in working with towns over the years with respect to lakeshore funnel developments. And let me describe what that is and what towns have done to prohibit them. A funnel development allows many more lot owners to access the shore than would otherwise be available based on the minimum shore frontage requirements that are in your zoning ordinance and that are generally have to be compatible with the state's minimum shoreland zoning guidelines that are set forth by the Department of Environmental Protection. In your town, you have a minimum shore frontage of 250 feet. In a normal situation with a conventional subdivision or a conventional residential development here, my understanding is that with 870 feet of shore frontage on Great East Lake, you would get 3 shorefront lots that would have to be a minimum of 2 acres in size and have 250 feet of frontage, okay? So to prevent funnel development, many towns have said something like this: if there's a common lot that has shore frontage, that is allowing access to non-shorefront lot owners to the shore, then there has to be some limit upon that, or else if all you had to do was buy a shorefront lot and have your 250 feet and enter into a private agreement to put a private right-of-way down there and say, anyone who wants to buy rights to my right-of-way, there's no limit upon doing that. And I can put a dock in with 60 slips if I want on Great East Lake. Many towns in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and I have done an informal review, and I have half a dozen across the state. There's the Belgrade Lakes area, there's the Sebago Lake area, there's the Moosehead Lake area. Okay, so these have adopted provisions that I will, for shorthand purposes, call a funnel development prohibition. And what this is, ladies and gentlemen, is a funnel development. And you have a provision in your ordinance that expressly prohibits funnel developments unless they meet strict requirements, which is 250 feet of frontage plus 25 additional feet for that common lot, or in this case, common open space, for every additional lot that is a non-shorefront lot that is going to have access to the water. And what I would submit to you, that it's very clear in your ordinance, there is no doubt about whether this provision, it's in 4.3.3 of your ordinance, and it's on page, forgive me, someone can shout it out if they know it. Bear with me. It is on page 38 of your ordinance. And it clearly applies to this situation, which is a residential use situation. Your ordinance and the cluster subdivision requirements in your subdivision regulations say this about shore frontage in 10.13.11 of your subdivision regulations. These are found within your own cluster subdivision regulations. It says that shore frontage for each lot within a cluster subdivision shall not be reduced below the minimum normally required by the zoning ordinance. That's saying, however you end up with things with a cluster subdivision, you shouldn't be able to use open space to circumvent the shorefront requirements that are in your zoning ordinance. You're not allowed to do that. It's clear under your subdivision regulations. And if that were not clear enough,
Yeah.
Section 1.6 of your zoning ordinance,
Back to what you just said. Isn't that in the case of condominiums?
no, it says shore frontage for each lot, or in the case of, I don't have it in front of me. Let me get it in front of me. Bear with me.
Amy, can you just give me the provision again? I'm
Yes,
sorry.
Bear with me.
10:13:11.
10.1311
11.
says shore frontage for each lot or area of occupation in the case of a condominium.
Right.
Shall not be reduced. I would submit what that's meaning is shore frontage for each lot, and we have lots here, and that the language or area of occupation in the case of a condominium is clearly talking about a condominium. We're not talking about a condominium.
We're not talking about.
So what we have is 22 lots. And it is true that the whole purpose behind a cluster subdivision is to be better for the environment and to consolidate open space and to have reduced lots. It is not, though, the purpose of a cluster subdivision and the purpose of an open space. The purpose of open space in a cluster subdivision is not to allow multiple non-shorefront lots to have access to the water that your zoning ordinance otherwise would not allow. And that's exactly what this proposal does. And it's prohibited under your zoning ordinance. And another reason why it's prohibited under your zoning ordinance is that section 1.6 of your zoning ordinance says, and this deals with what do you do when there's a conflict between your ordinances and your regulations. And your town, much like many towns, that places a very high premium on shore frontage and making sure that minimum shore frontage requirements are met in every instance, and cluster subdivision rules should not be used to circumvent that. This section says that whenever a shoreland district provision of this ordinance conflicts with or is inconsistent with another provision of this ordinance or of any other ordinance or regulation, meaning the subdivision regulations or statute administered by the municipality, the more restrictive provision shall control. And I would submit to you that this open space provision here that provides access for 22, or you could say 20, non-shorefront lots to the water violates the funnel development prohibition in 4.3.3 of your zoning ordinance. And it's a very clear legal argument. I will not, I'm sorry to be so legally oriented. I'm sure you would like to hear from others.
That's absolutely fine, and I would, because as I said, this isn't the public hearing, and this is obviously, at your very good suggestion, things that we have to, Leah will be looking into things for Mr. Martell.
Yes.
We will be addressing with our attorney.
Yes.
Southern Maine will be involved in this, and we will go from there.
Okay, and can I just make one more recommendation as to where I believe the planning board should go from here, given where we are? And I have not outlined all of my arguments, so I'm reserving the right to argue more, so, but I'm sure that, much to the chagrin of people in this room, but what I would suggest is the following. You, on August 1st, deemed this application complete. I believe you did that in error. Thank you for recognizing the procedural error, the error of not notifying in writing abutters by first-class mail. I believe that you should be suspending your review of this subdivision proposal and rescinding your decision of completeness. The reason I believe that at this time, until at least there is an opportunity to vet these legal issues, these threshold legal issues, under the zoning ordinance with the town attorney, with the developer's attorney, and with me, and at least to do that prior to your providing notice. And the reason is that if there is a threshold determination that this is not permitted, then you shouldn't be spending resources and requiring these people to come out to serial meetings to review a subdivision proposal that your zoning ordinance just does not permit in its current configuration. So right now, you have deemed the application complete. The reason I'm concerned about that is because certain things have to happen within a certain number of days once you have deemed that to be the case,
Right.
including a public hearing.
And we have recognized that, and
Yes.
will.
So I just want to state for the record that I believe a public hearing on this matter that you say you are intending to notice up on Tuesday would be premature at this point, and I would recommend that you suspend your review of the subdivision at this point. Thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you. Please, we do want to keep moving on, and at this point, and I thank you very much for your comments, your suggestions, and they do not fall on deaf ears. You should know that. It is 8 o'clock, and some of you may know our meetings can go up till 10 o'clock. Well, I'm not going to let that happen tonight, so I will allow, if my board agrees, another 5 minutes to hear from anybody that would like to speak to something. Get it off your chest now. Otherwise, as I say at a marriage, forever hold your peace. There will be a public hearing, and at that public hearing, you will have the floor. So, is there anyone who thinks that I'm going to do it again, Chow has left anything out, who would like to add to it? Yes, Leah?
Madam Chairman, again, I understand, and this is a lawyer occupational hazard, we can't help ourselves. Some of it is personality-driven, but some of it is the fact that we have a record to preserve, and so if I might just respond again briefly to some of the submissions made by Attorney Chow.
In 1 minute.
In 1 minute?
1 minute, please.
I have
No,
1 minute, or I
you-
need...
No, I'm going to ask you to wait for 1 minute.
Certainly.
Having asked if anybody had anything to add other than what the attorney had, and seeing nobody raise their hand, okay. Sir, if you would like to get up to, and then I will let Mr. Martell's lawyer speak. Yes. Would you please come up here?
I think people can probably hear me. I can go up there if you want me to.
For the record, it would be great.
My name's Tom Leonard. I'm a 25-year resident of Langley Shores Drive. And I really just had a simple question. I tried to look through the ordinance, through the subdivision regulations myself, and I have to say I didn't know there were ordinances separate from the subdivision regulations, so I didn't look at those. But I'm struck by Section 9.2E of the subdivision regulations, which is page 27, which says, "Development of a subdivision without board approval shall be a violation of the law. Development includes grading or construction of roads, grading of land or lots, or construction of buildings which require a planned approval, etc."
Sir, I'm sorry.
I don't
know where you're reading from. I'm sorry.
Page 27 of the subdivision regulations. It's section 9.2E.
I was looking in the zoning book. My apologies.
But I would just like to understand, I would just like to ask if the planning board could address why what's gone on for the last 2 years, the grading and everything, doesn't represent development, includes grading and construction of roads, grading of land or lots. I just don't understand why this has gone on for 2 years, and it appears to be a violation of the subdivision regulations. So I would just ask that somebody explain that to us.
At the time of the activity, it wasn't a subdivision. The subdivision was on Buzzell Road. We didn't have a plan in front of us or anything like that. That road, the driveway existed down.
So as long as you don't have a plan in front of you, it's not a violation, that's what you're saying?
As long as we don't have a plan in front of us, he's not out there building a subdivision.
Not building anything.
So development of a subdivision without board approval.
The Buzzell Road subdivision, which is a subdivision, was approved in a legal manner by this board, if that's what you're talking about.
So anyone can do grading, create roads, install electricity, create lots?
There's no electricity.
Change the grades, and as long as they haven't filed anything in front of the planning board, it's okay, and it doesn't violate the plain language that I read here? I just don't understand it.
Madam Chairman, I'm
So
just
you
going to...
can do whatever you want and then file afterwards.
If I can object to this...
This is getting off.
I'm just asking.
And also, I just want to say that any enforcement issues, and we certainly don't believe that there are any, but that is not the purview of this board.
It is not. Okay. Is there anyone else?
I wouldn't go in further.
I'm going to take one more. Okay. And we're coming up on that 5 minutes, so.
I'll make it quick.
Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Steve Town. I am a lakefront owner on the other side on Man Road. Again, we've witnessed the construction going on up there for over 2 years. To my knowledge, anyone that disturbs 3 acres of land in the state of Maine requires a Site Location Act permit. And they also are required to have an EPA stormwater pollution prevention plan through the NPDES program. And I just wanted to know if those are in place, and if they're in place before they started all the earth moving up there. The other thing, a couple things I want to mention is that there's certain items in the cluster section of the subdivision rules that have to be followed in order to allow a cluster subdivision. And one of them is that no individual lot or dwelling unit shall have direct vehicle access onto a public road that exists. They already built 7 lots that have access onto a public road, and I'm not sure you can piggyback a cluster on
That's
top
not
of
a cluster
that.
subdivision, sir. That's a separate
But this
buffer
is
road.
part of the development, as far as we can see it from down on the lake. Why would it not, why are
It
they
is not
two
part of the
separate
cluster
projects?
subdivision. So,
But it's all part of one scale of development, which is being done by the same developer. To me, that would mean that the cluster subdivision rules would not apply because they already have lots that front on a public road.
the simplest thing I can say, and we will go in depth at the public hearing, is one does not have anything to do with the other. And I know that's hard to hear. We have to go by this, by our ordinance book, and and the comp plan. And these are two separate entities and two separate issues. So while I am very happy to listen to your concerns, and I truly mean that, I think you have a lovely area there, and we care as much. If we did not care about what goes on in the growth in Acton, I can promise you there's not one of us who would be sitting here tonight as your planning board, because we are your planning board. So I thank you for bringing it forward and encourage you, please come to the public hearing. We all can have more information.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
You're very welcome. Mr. Martell's attorney would like the same
Yes.
courtesy as addressing. I'm going to ask you to go to the podium.
Oh, sure,
please.
certainly, yeah. So my comments may be a bit scattershot. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I introduced myself before. Leah Rachin, attorney for Arnie Martell. I am really going to try to just be very quick and drill down on the specific issues that were raised by Attorney Chow, and also, I'm not going to go through everything because you have my letter in front of you already, and I don't want to, try your patience. But one thing I did want to say and echo Amy's comments is that, we are happy that this board is concerned with process. We are too. And as I think I indicated in our letter, Arnie does welcome the opportunity for these site visits and wants to show people, is entirely transparent, wants people to see what he's planning, and hopefully in doing so may allay some concerns that may be based on misinformation. Another point that was raised, Attorney Chow had asked for the suspension of review and to rescind the determination of completeness. Now, as I said, we have absolutely no problem. Not only do we not have a problem with notifying abutters, we would recommend and hope that you do so, but we do object to rescinding or to, I think she said, rescind the determination of completeness. If notice is one issue, the substantive submission criteria is something entirely different, and we would just suggest that those are two different things, and you should not conflate the two. One of the other issues that was raised, and I think Attorney Chow referenced section 10.13.11, and I did not address that in my letters to you, so I would like, again, reserving the right, as we attorneys do, to address that. But just in a nutshell, Amy was talking about preventing these funnel lots, essentially. And that section 101311 says something, I'm paraphrasing here, but shorefront for each lot shall not be reduced below the minimum normally required. And it is our submission that it simply isn't. If you look at each of the two lots that are currently proposed on the shorefront, they have at least, they have 250 feet, which is the requirement. The open space lot, I believe, has something like 379, 380 feet. Again, that exceeds the requirement. And then if you look more closely, and I've put this in my submissions, the additional 25 feet per shorefront privilege, I believe it's referred to, that, if you look closely at the structure and the architecture of the ordinance, applies not to residential uses, but to commercial uses. I've outlined that in my submissions. Again, I don't want to go too far down that road, but I think that it isn't often the case that attorneys agree, but I think we do agree here that asking your own town attorney to weigh in on these issues is important. But I would say that I do not think that waiting for that opinion means that you have to rescind actions that you've already taken. Yes, please do notify, but please don't rescind. And I think, unless you have any questions for me, that's all I have.
I think we are good where we are, and a procedural question.
Bounce up and down. And I may have misheard this, so I apologize in advance, but is the board's position that the application that was submitted in, I don't have the letter in front of me, but it was March, is it March?
I don't know what letter you're speaking of, so.
Leah, can you help me with that?
The actual application?
Yeah, the actual application.
In February?
February or March. Is the board deeming that application to be the preliminary plan application?
Sketch plan. That's the sketch plan.
That's the sketch plans. That is not the preliminary plans, sketch plans. We know what he's doing now. We know a general direction from that application that we approved. Only.
Well, the reason why...
That is the only thing that's been approved.
The reason why I ask that is that I believe the applicant met all of the substantive provisions, or intended to meet all of the things that are listed that are required to be in a preliminary plan. And so if it is a preliminary plan, there are certain requirements, of notice and so forth, that run from the delivery of that plan. So if we are not, I guess the very specific question I have is this, it says that within 3 days of the receipt of the preliminary plan application by the board has to issue a dated receipt to the applicant, and I don't know if that happened. And also has to notify in writing by first-class mail all owners of abutting property. And that we know didn't happen.
We know that didn't happen.
So, but if that's where we are, I guess that's the question I have. Is that where we are? Is you're going to correct, you're going to provide the written notice to abutters, but that you will have deemed this application to be complete under 6.1E, which says, within 30 days of the receipt of the preliminary plan application, the board shall determine whether the application is complete, and then notify the applicant in writing of its determination. And then, without going on, there are certain things that have to follow very quickly upon that, including notifying the fire chief and the superintendent of schools, and seeking their input, and deciding whether or not to have a hearing. And if, I just am asking...
It's done.
Is that where we are in the process?
We are notifying abutters. The others are done. We will notify abutters.
Is this a preliminary plan application that you have deemed complete under 6.1?
I don't feel like we have accepted the preliminary plan, because I feel like it's still the sketch plan. It's a liquid document. We're still trying to negotiate with the applicant. I personally have not voted to accept the preliminary plan, and the intent of the board is still a little bit open in my part, but I really feel like we're just at a sketch plan right now, and I'd love to know what the rest of the board thought as well.
Okay, so procedurally...
You think we're at sketch plan still? Yeah.
Cluster to conventional.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, we encourage all developers to go cluster, but...
But we
Right, okay.
do not
Yep.
have in front of us what we consider to be
Okay, procedurally, I would like,
preliminary plan.
procedurally, I would appreciate confirmation from the town attorney or from written confirmation that what you've received and determined to be complete is not the preliminary plan application under 6.1E that then triggers all sorts of other deadlines. So I would ask that the board consider doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, to the board. Anything here? Anything? That was very good, thank you. I think we're all in agreement of that. Anything else here? Okay, at this point,
Thank you for coming.
yes, thank you all very much for coming, and you will be hearing from us with written notification, hearing, time and place, and... No, chairs can stay up here, and, yes, the chairs can stay up here, thank you.
Both doors open.
Have a great evening.
Oh, Arnie's gonna buy me vodka.
Thank you.
We made you remote, we're not gonna make you take it down. Don't do that. Thank you for having us. Have a great evening.
Bye, everybody. Hope the rest of your night is easier than this week.
I never heard this thing that we can go till 10.
We have gone to 10 a lot, you know that.
See you later. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
All right.
I tried.
Billy's still around?
You too. Thank you for having us.
And what about, well, I saw him at one point. I mean, I hate to throw it away.
Yeah, he was out there too.
Hate to say. No, we want to get, I heard her.
What?
I think the notice is we received an application.
Yeah. I'll give you, I will give you this one before we go back, and I'll get another one.
I'd give you mine, but I wrote on the back.
But when we're done, I will give you mine, and then I will. Mr. Ham?
Uh-oh. That was my father. That's not me.
Okay, Robin.
But it's Robin, it's bad.
Okay, yeah. No, are Billy and Joe still?
Oh, yeah, they're not far.
Yeah, they're right there. Billy, Plant. I know. Are they still out there? And Joe?
You want them to
Yeah, please, thanks.
I'm going to pay him today for being my gopher.
You can continue your work from here.
Bring up those plans.
You thought they were all here for you.
I'm not putting out the red carpet. I draw the line.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We took all the sharp objects.
Don't raise it. I don't think we're the concern anymore.
Don't you love a lightning rod in the room when it's not you?
Yeah. Folks, we're still in the middle of our meeting. If I could ask you to please quiet down. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're way ahead of us. Maybe.
I think so, yeah.
Whose book is that? Brenda's? That's me. Okay.
My computer's all froze up anyway, so,
Oh, well.
and it's not even mine.
Who are you here for tonight? First.
Mr. Plant and York County, second and third.
Okay, no, I just didn't know if I was seeing you second or third, no.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mostly, all we're trying to do is hopefully get to the point where we schedule some site walks and public hearings.
Okay, you're going to have to speak up because we're,
I didn't realize we were starting yet.
oh, yes. We never stop.
We're gonna keep going, yeah.
Keep going, yeah, there we go. Okay, so,
We want to hear every word.
so next on our agenda is CA Plant West Shore Drive, Acton, map 223, lot 004, mineral extraction application. Joe, take it away.
Good evening. So yeah, we're just checking back in regards to CA Plant and Sons proposed mineral extraction project on West Shore Drive. At previous meetings, we had submitted the majority of the grading plans and, any other subsequent information. What I submitted, between this meeting and the last was the copies of the earthwork notes that you guys had, I had omitted in my previous submittal, so hopefully you received that. Most of those were modeled off of the last approved similar application. I'm sure there's some differences in the sites here and there, but overall I thought it'd be a good place to start with a similar set of notes. And then, our hope at this point is that we have submitted what you deem to be a complete application enough to get you guys out there on a site walk, maybe get some input from the public at a public hearing, and then we can kind of mold together our final version of this plan, assuming things continue to go well.
Did we get distributed the complete application?
I think that was at last meeting.
At the last meeting for both of the, for some reason, I've only got the one for the fairgrounds in front of me, but maybe they're both in here.
Do you have the, yeah.
So it's just notes you gave us this time?
Yep, at this point, it was mostly just, the details in regards to, proposed hour of operations, notes in regard that this would be, a private pit, not open to the public, just for his own use during projects through his company. And then various, grading notes, slope notes, and DP notes that would be applicable here.
Did we get a copy of those?
I submitted them to land use by email, which I was hoping was going to be distributed. I thought that's how we left the last meeting. Was
They're on the plans downstairs. You updated them.
Okay.
They are on the plan.
You changed the notes on this plan, right? You added?
Yes, they're all on this one as well.
Okay, so we don't have,
So that's why we're confused, because
that's why we're confused. We don't have the notes. We have your very first one here, which is not,
Right, again, when I left the last meeting, it was my understanding if I submitted them by PDF, that they
Right.
would be distributed to everybody, and that we would
Right.
be, enough time for everybody to read them before the
right,
meeting.
exactly, and they're probably downstairs.
Yeah, it's been an interesting night.
Site walk. We'll set a site walk and
Yes.
we
Yeah,
can get a
that's-
little
that's
bit
our
more,
hope is-
we can get updated a little bit, get those notes and then.
Yep,
Yes.
if we can get you, I'd like to get you guys out there looking at it, so we can
More
kind
snow.
of iron things out like we have on previous projects,
Yeah. The board likes, what does the board like for that? Because it's getting dark earlier. Do we want to do it before the Thursday meeting or?
Well, our next meeting is on the 19th.
September?
September?
I am not available.
Right, you're gone that day.
it's hard for me to do it on a Thursday.
I'll be in Italy.
You'll be in Italy. Oh, dear.
I'll be at the
Would you all change your plans for Joe, please?
I mean, even this weekend, I would be
I
happy
was
to
just
meet with
gonna
a few
say-
people. I'm around.
Is everybody or anybody around this weekend?
I'm around this, I'm available all weekend.
Oh, you can't get the notice out that fast. Can you get the notice out for the 14th?
Is that a Saturday?
It's a Saturday. a week from this Saturday.
I can do that.
Everybody?
Great.
Still in Italy.
Still in Italy.
Are you around, Don?
One of the things.
12 to 22.
Pick something, get out there.
12 to 22. You just schedule that trips another time. Okay, well, Don, you won't be there, because you'll miss the site walk, you will miss the meeting, so you would not be voting on it anyway. All right, so,
Somebody else will take the note.
But it's perplexing to me that a group of volunteers would have responsibilities outside this committee. I just don't understand.
all right.
I know, because they pay us so much, right?
Yes.
Okay, West Shore Drive.
I'll do whatever.
Ken, Brenda, would the Saturday, the 14th be okay and work with you guys?
I doubt I can make it, but I'm familiar with the site.
Okay. I know. Oh, we did 3 without him, in one day. Yeah, in one day.
Right?
Yeah.
That was 4.
We have that, or we have
This weekend?
this weekend. Well,
You gotta get a public notice.
no, we can't do this weekend. It has to be public notice, and we can't
Oh, for the
get that
sidewalk,
out.
you have to have public notice?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, yeah.
And so I'm thinking if we do the 14th, we have public notice, goes out for the site walk. Does that give us time for the public hearing, Brenda? At our next, on the 17th?
How many butters do you have, Billy? That's a big lot, there must be a lot of butters.
Oh,
Nope.
no.
See a butter on the, across the RP side. Maybe 8 or 10 tops.
Is there 8 or 10, even that many?
Well, no. I
Within
mean,
500 feet,
Yeah, if you
probably.
count the people across the street and people out back, yeah, it's probably,
Okay, because if we could do it, if we could schedule it for,
Be good to get some discussion in before the hearing too, I don't know.
right. So if we could schedule it on, what did I say?
Oh, the
14th.
The 14th.
For the site walk.
For the site, which is a Monday. Oh, wait a minute. It's
Saturday.
I'm in the wrong month, sorry. I had us in October, guys. My apologies. All
right.
I just want things to go. All right, the 14th.
At 9 a.m.
Yep. Can you make 9 a.m. this time?
I kept you waiting last time. She will never forget that.
I won't. You know how hard it is for me to get up at 9 o'clock Saturday morning.
I get mad when people waste my time, so I can appreciate it.
I just, like, getting up on Saturday morning.
Just have to saunter down the road, though.
I know, really. Saunter, it's 3 miles. What's it run?
Do we want to do I know this might be skipping ahead, but do we want to do the fairgrounds site walk at the same day and, you know, an hour later, just schedule it right in?
That's really gonna be my next request. I think at this point, I'd like to get you guys out there, walk around before we
Let's
print
do-
out a bunch of more copies of this. I'd like to get some
Yeah.
feedback from you guys.
Let's do that.
And try to do that. So that's really my goal tonight, is to just get these 2 things scheduled.
Okay, let's do that, the same thing. The fairground, the 14th, let's say 10 a.m., an hour, give us what we need at,
Yeah, it should be more than that.
okay. Fine.
Did you say it was the 29th?
The 14th.
Just seeing if you're paying attention.
So, plant is at 9. Plant is at 9, fairground is at 10. And, public hearing.
think we might be jumping the gun on that. We'll just schedule that at the next meeting.
I mean, if we had,
Let's take a look at it.
yeah, but we've actually got, after the site walk, we have 4 days to set the date. So why don't we have the public hearing? We don't meet again until the 3rd, after the 19th. We meet the 19th and then the 3rd, November 3rd. You know, this is
October.
dragging out, very much so. Okay, look at your calendar, come up with something.
I'm putting the fairgrounds in at 10.
Yeah.
If you did it last week, we could've got in for free.
Does anybody see a problem with what we're asking for so far?
Oh, don't ask us that.
Let's do the site walk, let's do the.
I want to get an on-ground visual.
You always have to try to start on that.
I'm just trying to move this.
It's too late for that.
No, really, I think that's the best thing. I'd like to walk it with you guys and then get your input.
That'll answer half our questions that we'd have right now.
I think so.
We don't have to have a public hearing within the 4 days, it has to be scheduled within the 4 days.
No, it doesn't have to be scheduled, it's just, we're just trying to do it to get it done, but we're not, you know, we don't need to.
To the 19th? Let's see
I would
if we can
appreciate
get it-
getting all of that
if
input
we
at
can-
once if
If we
possible.
can get that done.
It's beginning to fall, is why.
Yeah, if we can get that done,
We're not gonna approve the thing before the hearing, everybody knows that.
if we,
Well, I mean, sometimes we try to do that to get it like as finalized as the planning board wants it. I mean, it just, we wouldn't, logistically wouldn't be able to pull it off, but.
I think if we
We
can
could have-
try and
that would be
get the
fine with me
public
to have the
hearing on the
hearing.
19th.
All right.
For both of them? For both of them. All right. On the 19th.
You think you wanna do both of them?
Definitely want to do both of them.
As well.
At 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock?
7 is...
7, Yoli.
Sorry, thank you.
Well, I need you to keep him safe.
And we did.
This is what happens.
I need to be
you
in
know,
contact, but we did promise at the last meeting, we make sure that the 13th Street Association got direct notification
Yes.
for that public hearing, so.
Would that be Mr. Ridley, or do the association have their own,
No, I'm not the fairgrounds.
Not the fairground.
The 13th Street Road.
Association, their association.
Would have been Mr. Gannon before, was that contact? I don't know who it is now. Yeah.
Who's,
They have a web.
I can try to find out who that is.
They have a website, we can
And I
find
think,
out.
I spoke to Linda, the last time I talked to 13th Street.
Okay, Linda,
No, not Linda,
no, not
not Linda Shire.
Not Linda Shire,
I don't remember her last name,
Okay.
but
Yes.
they have all the officers listed on the
Okay.
website.
Okay, I can check the website, and I have lots of clients that have interest in the road. We'll figure that out, we'll make sure. And I will also see what I can do at that point in time to try to get Mr. Ridley here for that meeting too, so he can interact with the public and with you guys, and we can hopefully iron out whatever it is we need to discuss.
and depending on how things go that night, we'll be good to move.
I won't be able to make that public hearing, but just for the record, you know, my concern is the road association.
Yep.
And making sure that they're satisfied.
Yep, and believe me, the fairgrounds and Mr. Ridley have shown interest in making sure everybody's getting along well, so. I will do what I can to make sure everybody who can be here on behalf of the fairgrounds and the road association gets invited to this meeting.
Okay.
Okay, thanks for coming, see you later.
It's been real.
Have a wonderful
Have a
night.
very good evening.
Leave those for me?
Leaving these for us.
Yep.
Thank you, that would be good to peek at that.
Thank you. Okay. We now have, coming back to us,
Same as the ones you got before, the same one.
the wedding barn. Oh, come on forward. And again, I apologize, all my stuff is downstairs, so.
Gets to be that way. Hello. Thank you.
We may have, you guys may have all this again. We took a little brief recess from last fall, so they wanted to bring us in a lot of the
I must say, yours are the only one
information.
that include people and chairs and stuff like that. It makes it rather charming.
Yes, yes. Oh, okay.
It looks very familiar.
This is the
It does.
soils report from
Awesome,
our
thank
PE,
you.
2 copies.
One that disappeared.
Yes.
Thank you.
Charlie Heffron's place.
Yes.
We were hoping that their contact.
We had that little mailing snafu where it arrived the day after the
I think it's
dessert
just
treat
buried
night
into
question.
the wood.
So we mailed another one, which is for September 20th. So they'll have, and we put a note, you'll get a copy as well. That said, don't worry, you didn't miss it. It's a mailing error. Oops. So we have to, but it's getting dark. Each week that passes, we practically lose like 10 minutes of daylight. It's astounding.
Very noticeable now.
Yes.
I think one of the issues I had when I did my first preliminary plan review was, it's an existing gravel pit out there for you guys that know the area, and they're trying to convert the existing gravel pit to one of their parking areas, and I think that's resource protection, so the board will have to take a look at that as far as,
That's right. There's a bit of overlap on that like long wedge. You'll see it on
Over
the...
here.
Yes. And
Right
we
here.
indicated with color that there is that overlap that would affect about 30 spaces that we're hoping for.
If you look at this colored picture, you can see it here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a site walk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've
I can
been,
guess the date.
oh, we'd love to have you out if you have time on that day, for sure. So just by introduction, we haven't met all of you before at our last preliminary hearing this spring. This is Cole Coletro.
Cole.
And I'm Paul Gurney.
Scott Arnold. And my daughter Katie is at a
Yeah, she was here the first time.
She's having a surprise birthday party for her boyfriend.
Oh.
We just found out that she picked a date at our barn to get married. And I didn't even know she was getting married yet.
She was starting to worry.
Yeah, it came up in a text to the, hey, can I have June 20th? And I'm like, wait.
oh, I thought it was gonna be September 14th.
I got a call about the end of the first week of June, 7 years ago, having just had surgery, 2 black eyes, and my daughter said, "We're getting married." It's great. Where?
When?
At your house.
At our house, on the lake, on the dock. Oh, good. When? 4th of July weekend. Next year? No, in 3 weeks.
Wow.
You can do it. You can do it.
You can do it.
You can do it.
You can.
You can do it.
Well,
I did it in a month.
Yeah.
The difference
I
is
did it in 3 weeks.
with us is that we can't do it without you.
Oh, sure. I won't charge you much to come down my yard, you know.
It's our plan B.
Yeah.
Well,
So they do have the barn constructed, but really no site work?
No, that's
None of the...
What about the other buildings
There
out
were
there?
2 or 3 existing?
yes.
One?
A little cape, a little salt box.
Yeah, there's 3. One's more like a shed and,
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So we don't want to demolish those. They, contrary to the advice of several advisors, who say, tear it all down, start fresh, but they have some economic value. They're good framing. We'll just got all the old insulation and remodeled them. We had a permit already to start with the Cape, getting its electrical up to code, new meters. So they will stay right where they are, and they'll become like the day, like prep for the day. One party goes in the salt box and the bride's party goes in the cape. So kind of it's a thing in modern weddings, I guess, that they need their own suites.
Oh, yes, the bride's room and the groom and the groomsmen,
Yeah. So, and then that shed will become, it's 20 by 40, and it will become like a little rec center. So ping pong table and sofas and like a relax room for the stressful day.
So when the grandmother of the bride faints, you can put her in there.
Right.
There you go. Yeah.
So you can see from the satellite views that what we call the upper level parking lot was already used as a parking lot, it appears, for like heavy equipment over the years before us. And then that lower level that we're hoping we could turn into a parking lot for about 60 cars, there's already a road there, it's already flat. It's all, we actually had Bill Plant do some test pits all over the property with our PE to find a good leach field site, which is up near the Cape, actually, but also in that lower level to see about if it could function as a parking lot. And they all had like a great type of soil. We have a soils report from our PE about the well draining. So that was like we had 2 waiver requests, but I'm sorry, don't let us jump ahead, Ken, if you want to.
No, go right ahead.
Keep talking to us.
So, so the 2 waiver requests would be, one, the contours. We're using our P is Tom Milligan, the civil engineer from Biddeford, the city of Biddeford. Very capable and experienced civil guy, and he said that if we could ask for the waiver on the 2-foot contour and just use the 20-foot contours that are on the Acton tax mapping software. We tried to find a source for 2-foot contours at the federal level, all the different USGIS sites. There's none available. So because we have such well-draining soil and because we're not altering the permeable areas beyond what has already been done, we're hoping that with your site walk and with our plans that you'll see that there's plenty of places for the water to go. Basically, the only new building is the barn. So we have the mitigation plan is on the drainage sheet. Just those, they're kind of like a French drain, right? The crushed rock trench that catches and disperses the water. So that would be one waiver request, if at all possible. Any questions or?
The only excavation work you'd be doing is the parking lots?
Actually,
parking lot, septic?
Just the leach field, yes. Yeah. And we actually, so the area near that cape already was very gravelly. The area for the barn had a lot of shrubs and very young growth, so that we already cleared, and our excavator already sort of cleared that mound that would become the leach field. So that's already, just the existing soil was already like type D gravel, it's already perfect. So they would, with those big strainers, clean the soil and then bring in wash sand. But we're not at the leach field stage, of course. It's just cleared for now. So it's like about 60 by 90. And it had already been partially cleared. You know that road that goes in, it's called Hefferon Lane? Yeah, where the barn is right next to that. So.
Where did we lose Dennis? Excuse me.
Oh yeah.
Actually, I was going to walk out and I have to excuse myself.
Yeah, just make sure he's okay. I just noticed that.
Thought the meeting was over.
Oh, no, his thing, do excuse me, I did not mean, but I just noticed his glasses over there, and it's like, whoops.
Just chatting. So, yeah, should we get them in on the same day for a site walk while we're all together, or you want to?
Yeah, I'd throw it in there.
Yeah, all right, let's go with that.
That site walk day was the 14th?
No.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Saturday the 14th, it'll probably be 11 o'clock, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
That's when we have that big convention.
We didn't even notice you were going.
Do you have?
Not till just now, and they sent
Do you have
something
a
for you.
conflict?
Not at all, no.
No, just Scott and Katie would be there. Cole and I have to be out of town, unfortunately, actually. Is that okay, or do you need all 4 of us there?
No, just your
representative of some sort.
Representative to answer question, and he's somewhat involved in it as partners with you guys, so we're good with that.
Okay. We do need some stuff potentially flagged out on the ground for the site walk.
Okay.
Like where the resource protection line is and where the resource protection buffer line would end as it cuts across your parking lot, and where the proposed lower parking lot's gonna go. We would want to check all that out.
Okay, absolutely.
So do we set a site visit, is that what you guys are doing when I wasn't?
Same day.
Same day.
Same time as the rest of them?
We do them all at the same time.
Yeah,
So that would be our request for the second waiver
is the 2-foot contour.
Oh, so that's our
20-foot, request.
To use 20-foot contour.
Consider that.
And then the second is detailed in one of the notes on the parking plan, is that there's already a road down that curves in. You can see it on the satellite view, and it's a vast clearing that's already been mined out.
Are you talking about this?
Yeah, yes, that lower, exactly. So that's already there, and we've observed it for 4 seasons now, actually.
Right
and
here.
it doesn't get wet. That the actual resource to protect is a small seasonal, like little stream that's shown on the drawing. And so we can end that parking, but that we only want 2 rows. We don't want to use the entire thing, just as you see, 2 rows. And then all that zone between, it's actually about 80 feet to the little stream, it would all be revegetated. So there's no need, we're not going to try to put more rows in there. But we'll mark it.
How many cars would you anticipate?
We're planning for 60 in the top level and then 60 in the bottom, so 120. There's potential other places that, like, there's by the little apple orchard that's there, it could conceivably be turned into some extra parking, but we're hoping not to disturb like any existing trees or vegetation. So these are already cleared, just some small like shrubs, opportunistic things that grow up in the soil, but they've already been cleared, so we're hoping just to sort of repurpose them to occasional parking. Is there anything else relevant? I don't want to keep talking.
I guess you're gonna have where the barn's already set up, so I guess maybe the leach fields will be, the corners will be flagged out, or there'll be something that, I mean, if Ken's not there, you know.
Yeah, you'll definitely see where the leach field is.
Okay.
Yep. The excavator got a little bit ahead of us because we weren't ready to like do the leach field without the planning board approval. But as part of clearing out the pad and getting the truck in and getting space for the concrete, they just kind of leveled enough over the leach field area actually to
Talk
park.
to Billy about that.
Well, it was Mr. Richard Levesque.
Oh,
Yeah,
I know him too.
Billy did our test pits,
Oh,
but
okay.
wasn't available for the clearing the barn. So the alternative to not being able to use that strip of the existing lower level would be to carve a parking lot in some of the other areas. Like, you can see
proposed overflow parking area too?
Yeah, that's what we're hoping to just repurpose that.
Yeah,
But
so
you see
where
on
would your
this-
next area be?
Yeah, the next possible area would be more work and development budget for sure, but it's that other major clearing down the road to the right, right there, yeah. That one is more of like a hill. And it has no trees on it, but it would be like a major effort to move it all and level it. It's like not appropriate for a parking lot.
So you'll have the 2 parking areas flagged out, the resource protection and the septic.
Yes.
Everything else is really existing on the site.
Yes.
How are you doing with your neighbors before you get there?
All right.
The ones that share the
driveway,
the Myers, they've been very supportive. And then a new neighbor right to the left of the driveway as you leave, she just bought the home about 1.5 years ago. She's been great. We had a lot of fun with her. She helped out with the Renaissance Fair right here at the Acton Fair. And she loved the idea. She wants to come over and assist if you know, as we need parking attendants or any type of help. She's like, oh, I'd love to work there. And so she's been very supportive as well. Those are our closest.
Yeah.
Sure. And then we sent out those mailers, but the mailing was messed up on that, but we had a couple that showed up. One gentleman, Dan, came yesterday, and he loved the building, so we haven't received any criticism about what we're going to do there.
How many events do you anticipate you'll be doing?
Well, we hope for about one a week, ideally, because we want to be year-round, and with that 50 acres, there's already a lot of trails. You can see one of the satellite views shows the extent of all those logging roads. We think they'd be perfect for cross-country skiing or, small events, basically, like
Conferences.
And walking the trails, so we think we can...
Hearings.
Yeah.
Public hearings?
That's right.
Do you think when we have yours that we should meet up here, or can we meet downstairs?
We should definitely do it there.
We'd love to have civic events, so basically be a part community resource, so there can be fundraisers or events of any kind. We're currently, this is what we want, and I hope it's acceptable, but we want only ticketed events. Like, in other words, it's not a public place that anyone comes and goes. Like, if there's no event, it's locked, right? So this way we can have more control over who's there. So
Everything that you do would be catered outside catering?
outside meaning outdoors?
No, I'm meaning...
Outside companies coming in to do
companies coming in to do food and...
Bar and all of that.
So what we're proposing is that we're open to someone bringing in outside catering, but the barn will have its own commercial kitchen, so we want to also offer catering because it makes sense. We can have that, it's one less worry for the brides, as we say, as our customers.
What about bars? Bars, alcohol?
Oh, yes, so that's obviously an essential part of weddings since time began, I guess. So we have a small bar, so there's a permanent space like the beverage station. So
Would you be doing that too?
Yes, only us. That is our requirement, that we own the bartending function, so that we train the manager, they're licensed, there's no...
Tip certified, and you have the liability?
Yes, all of that. We would own the liability, the function itself, so...
Liquor license, everything.
Liquor license, yeah.
We like that better than the
It's because...
bar on wheels.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Bartenders would have to have their license as well. And
Sorry?
The bartender will have their licenses.
Yeah.
Well, they have to be tip certified.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are they licensed in Maine or just tip certified?
I don't know about Maine, but in Massachusetts, you don't even have to be tip certified, but
But if you work in a decent place, you should be.
We're requiring the bartender certification and the main license if possible, if that's required, or the tips.
A Maine,
I'm not sure that there is, I've never heard of it.
They do give classes
usually.
Yeah, but you get tip certified.
Yeah,
which is, how to evaluate whether they're
Well, my son got his bartending license through Southern Maine.
Yeah, see, they call it a license, but
So I'm not sure.
I don't know if it's a state license, but...
Right.
I mean, I've been bartending for 30 years, so I've never heard of being licensed.
by the state. But it's funny, hairdressers have to be, but not bartenders.
Right, but...
You need a
But it's very
license to cut
important
somebody's
to be-
fingernails, but not to build their house.
To have the tip
carpenters and
certification.
license.
You could take.
Responsible alcohol service.
I mean, certain
Without a
things,
doubt.
like how to recognize.
Yes.
Someone can be talking to you as we're talking tonight, just like this, no slurring, no anything, but they can be 3 sheets to the wind.
Yes.
At the same time.
Right.
And, you might not know unless you recognize
I think it's
those
a volunteer
pupil dilations,
Class.
That's true.
Yeah.
And we definitely, we definitely want to be careful. That's why we want to own this function, even in our proposals to, we have some reservations put down. There's so much demand that even provisional proposals to hold the date, we wrote, in our actual contract, the bartender, there will always be 2, and there'll always be 1 helper, always. and we wrote, "The bartender's word is law, not even a manager or an owner will override the bartender." So it's right there in there, the couple's proposal.
So you have a bartender.
That is a beautiful thing, because
That's fantastic.
Yeah, we don't want any disputes. Our contracts are about 12 pages with careful
Two
wording.
bartenders and a bar back, that's pretty
Yep.
darn good.
Yeah, we want to be very high touch, we had requests for BYOB. We said, nope, we will buy your keg from your favorite microbrew, we will serve it. No outside anything.
Yeah.
So we'll have cups with our logo on it, so there's no random cups. We're going to run a tight ship, and...
yeah, you'll find the bottles under the tables, and the little nips everywhere.
Oh, my God.
Walk out to the car. And the smoking, what are you,
No smoking in the barn whatsoever.
no open flame?
Well, definitely not in the barn, but we do hope to have fire pits.
No, I'm talking about in your structures and things like that.
In the structure, only LED, there's like
Yeah.
flame candles.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah,
we'll do those.
they're the greatest now.
But no, sure.
Just fire pits on the deck outside.
Yeah, like the patio.
That's an attraction for.
Gas fired or what?
Yes.
Well, both.
Fire pits.
We plan to have two, as we call it, like if we're successful in our first year, we want to have like a pizza oven, so that would be wood.
But that's not really an open flame.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
and it's pretty much contained.
But I think-
Where is the deck?
Oh, the patio.
Oh, I meant
Not a deck, a patio.
I meant a patio, sorry.
Yeah, so it's only on,
Just on the side of the barn is where we're thinking about putting a paver
Stone patio.
yes,
Yeah, pavers along one side.
yeah, and there's a lot of exits in the barn. There's plenty of side entrances, rear entrances. So what we call like the little seating sofa area or like a lounge, it's on the side, there's no chairs in it. That's where people could walk onto the patio. And then there's the two big doors on the back end and the front end. And then the kitchen has a door and the storage room.
And this is 2 stories?
It's actually, it's 30 feet tall, but it's
It's just
all-
open.
Yeah, we
Computer ceiling.
Okay.
can't wait for you to see it. It's really nice inside.
That's
Just
going to be a
timber.
rare to heat.
Well, we have radiant floor heat, so the concrete slab has a tube in it, and it's insulated underneath. So the floors will warm you and the chairs and the tables, so they radiate into the people, so all our money of heating is not flying up to the ceiling like the hot air. So we had a local, James Kittredge HVAC design our system, and it's going to be really nice for year-round. Granted, we'll have to kind of make sure the doors are shut on the ends, you don't want to heat the outside, but you don't lose as much, it's not hot air.
I actually had radiant floors in my house before I came up here.
Where are you with the fire marshal's review on this
Yeah.
one?
They have it, we haven't heard back yet.
Yep.
So they have our life.
Keep bothering them.
Okay.
Yeah, doesn't hurt.
All right.
Remind them.
So our life safety designer was Roby Fecteau from Biddeford, the life safety director for that city, and he reviewed our plan, and our PE, Tom Milligan, our civil engineer, did up the sheet. Can you have that?
Yeah.
But not, I don't think it's in your package, but it has all the usual hardwired alarm, strobes, fire control panel, cutoff for the music, if anything ever, it's kind of interesting, if any fire alarm goes off, the breaker is tripped on the music circuit, so all the sound's off, and so you can hear the alarm. So
Will you do just DJs or live bands?
So, just DJs as far as we know, but we're hoping to do, like, besides more than just weddings, so we want to be this sort of event center. So if there was a singer, a small, like a band, definitely not, what is that, rock in Westbrook? Oh my gosh, whatever.
Rock Row?
Rock Row. No.
The first engineer that was here is the engineer for.
Oh, wow. Oh, interesting. So yes, we would like to have bands, but not the kind that would annoy the neighbors or drive us crazy either. But more like if there could be a live singer for a wedding or a live
Acoustical.
Yeah, acoustical, or I guess even if it was electric, we would control the sound.
Well, I was going to ask you about the sound system, because supposedly you get a group of, AARP comes up, and they want to do this, no, but they want to show everybody, what's what on AARP and why you should do this, and your social security is or isn't going to be around. You are going to have the technical ability for the screens and the, all that sort of thing.
Yes.
It could be bankers that are coming up for a day to,
That's right.
give the award to the biggest mortgage seller or whatever the heck they do,
That's right, we would hope to have those kind of events too, and definitely.
Have you worked in the hospitality business?
Some of our history? Yes, in different ways too.
I have 28 years of customer service with an airline, so I'm usually the one that people yell at when there's delays and cancellations. My daughter's been a wedding photographer for 7 years, and besides their full-time jobs, you guys ran a lake rental for how many years?
For 8 years, we had a 5-bedroom lakefront that we were booked as often as we wanted to be. Cole and I ran that. So it was, we would have 15 people up every week for about 20 weeks in the Belgrade Lakes region. So that kind of whet our appetite for hospitality.
And nothing in food and beverage?
So Cole has that.
So I have worked on restaurants before in Massachusetts, and here in Maine. I have part-time at Starbucks, so I learn a lot with customer service there.
Choice Hotel.
Choice Hotels, and then I do like web design and marketing.
Yeah. So one of us will be present at all times, and in the first year, all 4 of us will be present, and our business plan calls for an on-site manager as well that will train. So every event will have they'll start as an assistant manager and then eventually become like a 5th one of us.
So you wouldn't keep that little shed area part of that as your on-site office?
Yes.
A place to
for
do business out of?
That's right. So currently, we just do showings, like we would do showings at the barn. An office someday, yep, that would be great. There's enough
especially
space.
if that's 20 by 40, did you say?
Yeah.
Right down the middle, and
right.
10 by 10, you've got an office.
Right. So a lot of our work or our sales efforts will be reaching out to businesses. So together, the 4 of us have worked both in banking, for IDEX, for Fairchild, WEX, so we have a lot of professional colleagues, so we'll be able to enlist event planners who look for that space. Even the bank financing us, we've approached to have an employee appreciation day, and they said, absolutely, we'll be there.
Party here.
There's not really that many places.
What about security? When you're not there? I mean, I wish you great success if this all comes to fruition.
Yes, thank you.
But there are going to be times when you're not there, and you could have 3 or 4 days when the building is just there by itself.
So we would lock the gate, exactly, there'd be a gate. That's why we don't want it's not a public property whatsoever. It would be pre-planned, ticketed events, and that was key to the fire marshal as well, that this wasn't like a come-and-go restaurant. Absolutely not. It's a controlled access.
But your gate isn't going to stop anybody from getting there. You know what I'm saying?
Like different alarm systems, like ADT, Simply
Oh, yeah.
Safe. I mean,
we'll have
cameras, motion lights, motion cameras. To protect yourself.
Yes. So our lighting plan doesn't actually, it's in there, the lighting plan, which is basically dawn to dusk, motion sensors, so there'll always be lights all the time. Like to us, in our history, lights are the cheapest safety, equipment, or security equipment. So it'll always be lit with that low, dawn to dusk sensor. But the cameras we're going to have everywhere. It'll be an Ethernet wired, like a hardwired domes everywhere. We've even told the brides that the coat room will have one, just to avoid anything. And so in my banking experience, the banks are very wired. with cameras everywhere, and they're reviewed absolutely daily for performance and all that. So we're not going to go that far of like monitoring the staff, but there'll be evidence for everything outdoor. So, you know, like I said, we want to run a tight ship and not be, definitely not absentee.
You just gotta be careful about privacy issues.
It's in their contract that there's video surveillance, but
If you get companies coming in for conferences, a lot of times, they're talking about sensitive information that they don't want recorded.
oh yeah, so no sound for us, only the video. It'll all be like a silent motion picture.
The silent movie, so, you
Right.
know.
All right, so
I had to
we'll,
think, so that sounds, we
Saturday, the
will,
14th, 11 a.m.?
11 a.m. on the 14th, and frankly, after that, we will, you know, probably have more information from you, and we will set a date after that for your public hearing.
Great, excellent.
If you have been here since 7 o'clock, you know that our public hearings can get
Yeah.
full house.
Okay, exciting. Well, I just wanted to say that when we sat down with the two closest abutters, Leanne and Mr. Myers, we
Yeah.
met Mr. Myers and his wife, and they were, you know, we don't want to speak for them, but to paraphrase, they were, like, you could say, cautiously welcoming. They didn't want anything else, like having to any growing operation of any kind, you know, that was a concern.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. And then the other thing was just the shared road.
Yes.
And we promised to, and we even put it in our plan to take over maintenance of it, take over plowing of it, basically be the best neighbor they've ever had, shim the roads, you know, upgrade it. There's one part in front of their driveway that can get muddy. We'll scoop all that out and put the great soil that we already have, or gravel that we already have. So he seemed satisfied with our plans, and he suggested the plow, his plow operator would be a better choice than the one we had used. So we said, absolutely, we'll keep continuity and make sure it's, you don't regret it. He said, I don't want to wait for my turn, you know, to get out. If there's an event happening and people are leaving, I don't want to, or coming, let's say, I don't want to wait. And so we made sure that we measured the driveway and rolled it, marked it. It's wide enough for 2 cars. We'll bush hog the sides. It's again, just shrubs and things on the side of a dirt road. We have a 50-foot right-of-way, but we'll maintain it so that there's definitely room for 2. But our PE, Tom, didn't want us to officially like widen it because it would increase the permeability or decrease the permeability of the available. He said there's enough for 2 cars. There's turnouts, many opportunities, and with all the shrubs or whatever we call those, weeds and stuff kept mowed, it would be fine. So that's why we wrote shim and maintain the road, but not in these couple of years. We don't have the budget to pave the whole thing. If that is a possibility to help keep this a reality, to not do massive amounts of paving.
All right, so you're going to lay out the parking lot, the RP, septic system, both parking lots?
Yes.
And we'll see you the 14th.
Awesome, thank you very much.
11 o'clock-ish.
Do you like that flagged, or do you want the spray paint? What's best?
If the little colored flags are easy enough. Grab them at Lowe's or anywheres like that.
Great.
Beautiful, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all, appreciate it.
Okay.
Good night.
Have a good one.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We have new business. Robert Jones, 199 7th Street, map 151, lot. Excuse me for stopping, but lot 016. Best practical location application to demo existing structure and build a new single-family dwelling within the 30% expansion allowed.
Good catch.
Well, thank you.
Your short one, your short one.
Send it to Virginia.
All right, Virginia. Virginia, could we see you a minute? Please come to the front of the room.
Somebody stole the chair? Dennis.
It's gone since tonight. So-
Was it
different?
8:30 I seen it, the last, 8:30 tonight.
Does it look like these, or is it?
It's not, it's the black office chair.
I wonder if it got pushed into,
I wonder if it got pushed into the kitchen or something.
I'm not going
no,
on the kitchen.
that's what I did, I went and looked.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we
The
have,
one with the camera, you should have caught it.
we do have the names of everybody who's been here.
You go through the list of people.
I'm still here, it wasn't me.
It's in my jar of,
Dennis was missing. Thank you.
That property has a gate on it now, that you were just talking about?
No.
I put a recommendation in, when they do put the gate on.
We always do the Knox box.
Definitely.
Just FYI, I figured you guys would know that.
Do you know when a new chief is coming? Do you know when a new chief is coming? Because we'll work with the interim.
Still doing the...
No, if you two would excuse me for a minute, we're going to take a 3-minute break right here.
Okay.
Thank you, Virginia. And thank you all. That was a much-needed break for us. So, we have a best practical location?
I have, was Mr. Jones first, I believe, 199 7th Street.
7th Street.
Current location is 25 from the water, the new would be 48.
That sounds good. And
all my photos are electronic, so.
all your photos are electronic. Oh, good. Do you have a map you can pass around?
I tried,
good.
it didn't go anyways.
I mean, this is all allowable under our ordinances.
Yep.
What's happening with the shed?
Shed is being demoed,
Okay.
removed.
All right, so I'll pass this down. Where did, I saw, what's up here?
That's the septic and the parking. 7th Street's all steep right down into it. A little bit of parking tucked in behind it. The power lines are right behind it, so that's as far back as we could get it. Again, going from 25 to 48.
You're going from 25 to 48, and you're sort of turning the house this way.
Yeah.
Is it something we need to see?
I wouldn't think so. That
Okay.
one's pretty straightforward.
Very straightforward.
Septic's existing, well, I don't know if he's replacing that one or not. Septic's up by the road.
So he's gonna put something in front of the,
You'd revegetate where the old camp was.
where the old camp was?
Yeah.
And during demolition, it'll have something there?
Erosion control
Erosion
and all
control.
that, yep.
Okay. Yeah, because that 25 feet, I'd like to see something there.
Exactly, yeah. Ba-dum-bum-bum-bum.
Does the house have a deck on it or anything like that you know of?
No, it's so much easier when you're demoing and rebuilding.
Yeah.
Because then the guidelines are much easier. You wouldn't be able to get a deck on the front of the house because the state would feel you can move it back further.
Right.
And the
That's
decks
what I was
go on the
curious.
sides.
Yeah. And really, he's within,
He's got setbacks on both sides.
On both
so
sides, yeah.
I think he's gonna try to, where he's within that 100-foot zone, he can only expand 30%, so he needs house more than deck.
right, so lots of windows on the front and
Yep.
we're happy.
Yep.
Yeah. Send it that way. What?
Any retaining walls or any
No,
big guard areas?
no.
No concrete to get rid of? And he revegetates where the old one was.
We've got a new representative from York County Water and Soil, and she was DEP NERPA inspector, so now she's gone to the stormwater side with York County Water, and so she's been the one we've been working with these vegetation plans, and she gets it from both sides.
Yeah.
The DEP side and the re-veg side, so.
Okay.
So, she's been really great to work with, more accessible too. Call her, and within a couple of days, she can come out versus before, nobody calls you back.
Okay, so,
All right, I think we, move it back no closer than 48 feet from the water?
because we're gonna have to speak up because we still are on camera. Thank you.
Okay. I move we push it back no more than 48 feet from the water, no closer than 48 feet.
Second?
So you are moving to accept the best practical location application? Mm-hmm. Thank you. Approve. Thank you. We'll get there.
We approve
Right now?
the best practical location.
Application to Robert Jones, moving
Then we
back.
relocate it to the best spot, so.
I'll
This
second
person
again.
may not
Okay.
have one.
All in favor?
May be in the best spot, this one here just had.
Yeah, with the trench lines and the vegetation and all that in there too.
Yep.
Yeah. Any opposed? Goes. Done.
Next one, map 116, lot 4, Andy Caliphats. Again, this one's not being demoed, he's jacking and installing the foundation underneath it. It's fairly steep right behind it. Goes right up. Always in a picture, it's hard to see what it is, so when we're relocating, this one's 30 feet away from the water to the deck, 40 to the house. He graduated.
Ken, where is this on Ham's Camp?
245.
I know, but.
Oh, as soon as you come down the pavement and you turn right, just go down.
Around the sharp turn?
Right there, right at the sharp turn.
Okay.
So they're jacking it up and putting it.
This is
I
on
don't want to.
Yeah.
Ham's Camp? Or?
Yeah. All right.
So,
Right, it's
Okay.
right next to Frank's then.
Oh, okay.
where they're jacking this one up, it makes it much harder than if they were just putting it in a dumpster. It's fairly steep right behind it. If it was brand new, I don't know if there'd be much to come back, but it's an L-shaped house, so this L sticks into the banking very deeply. It's fairly steep as you're looking right behind it. Those are several stairs that come down to it. It doesn't look it in the photo, but that's fairly steep right behind it. That goes right up through, and that's the 30 to the deck, 40 to the house. Oh, it's a graduation.
So this deck they're talking is a ground level deck?
That's the one on the waterfront.
Yeah.
That's great. That's above.
That's up there.
Yeah.
And,
So.
and on the back?
Just the foundation under the existing.
Just a foundation. Okay. So on the front again? Okay, on the back again. So basically, they're replacing,
Yeah, doing a foundation under the whole house.
Yeah.
This, like I said, the L makes it difficult to, if you move it back, even a couple of feet, we'd go from an 8-foot foundation to 12 feet with that grade that's just right there.
Right there.
And even if we come to here, we'd be at a tall foundation as well.
right?
You know, uniquely enough, I'd say this one here is in its best location.
It's already in its best location.
Yeah.
Anybody see a need for a site walk?
No.
No?
No.
No?
I'm familiar with this, with the area. This is the right-of-way of friends of ours.
Okay. so.
I've been looking.
No, they're not talking about 30-foot expansion. No.
Nope, just the foundation
Just the
underneath.
foundation underneath. Partial foundation with a full foundation with no increase to footprint, okay?
Leslie already approved it.
What?
You approved it.
Okay, can I entertain a motion to approve the best practical location application to...
Will the deck be coming off as part of the raising?
They may take it off, raise it, and bring it up, or just probably raise it with it.
Well, they'd have to shore it up.
Yes, yeah. Usually you take it up, get out of the way just for access to go in and out with the equipment. It's gonna be a tough project.
Yeah. So,
We've been working with them for 3 or 4 years at least. Ideally, they'd love to put it in a dumpster, but it's just cost prohibitive because the house is still in fairly good shape, except for the stuff below the deck, the grade level stuff it's so rotted when
it
I hooked
starts rotting
Well, I
everything
hooked
out.
my tape measure to it to pull it, and I pulled a bunch of the house off. So,
Did you have to buy it?
no, not yet.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully he gets it from...
You didn't break it and,
No, not yet.
you know, you break it, you
He
buy
doesn't
it.
know yet unless he watches
Oh, my.
local acting cable.
Oh, my. Okay. Oh, again. Entertain a motion to approve the application submitted by Andrew. Okay, would you tell me his last name again?
Califax.
Califax,
And this one, I guess, is a little unique. The house would be no closer than 40, and the open deck would be no closer than 30.
the house being no closer than 40 feet, and the open deck 30 feet from the water. If I don't hear a motion...
So moved.
So seconded.
Leslie and Yoli, thank you. Any
Documented.
Thank you.
So documented.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, it passes.
No.
No.
There's only...
No, it's 3.
She didn't jump.
He was not, it was not necessary. Why?
Three's a quorum.
3's a quorum.
She only had 4 earlier, but she didn't want me to have one on the go, so we...
3's a quorum.
Thanks for showing up.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were just here to, we needed to have good looks here. Okay. Guys, reminder, planning board workshops begin September 25th at 12 noon. And they'll be held the second and fourth Wednesday of each month at noon, the Thomas Cashin Meeting Room. If you can be here, it is very much appreciated. If you cannot be here, please just let Christina know.
Yeah, okay, I won't ever.
I know. But, you know, let her know. And those of you who will be gone, but back on the 22nd, show up. Thank you all. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
First thing on that. Second? All in favor? Raise your hand. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.